Okay, in this tutorial, we're going to look at doing some edits on the timeline. In a previous video, you've seen how to edit videos onto the canvas. So the first thing that we're going to do is take a look at some video clips. I'm going to double click on the videos bin that I've got here. So I've got 3 videos that I can make use of, and I'll double click on the first one. I've got an area selected. I'm going to select a chunk of this here, and I'm going to make a small error that I'm going to rectify shortly. So I'm going to mark an in point here, and then I'll mark an out point here. So if you've watched the previous videos, I show how to insert and overwrite content here, but we're going to take a look at putting it onto the timeline. So this one I'm just going to drag down and then put right here at the beginning of the movie, so that the first clip will be this with a little bit of the next clip leading to it. So now as I'm adding things on, I want to put a clip before this one and then push it over. So that is an insert rather than an overwrite, but I'm going to show you how to do this the incorrect way and then the correct way after that. So I'm going to take this Labor Day footage here, and I'll get part of this parade. I'm just going to mark an in and out point here, and take a look on the timeline as I drag it down. And you can see something really strange happen with the cursor. I'm still holding on to the button. I haven't let go. Is that we get these 2 different arrows here. A down arrow here represents an overwrite, and a sideways arrow represents an insert. And the division line, whether I'm doing an insert or an overwrite, is the line that crosses through that line on the timeline. So it's a very faint line. So I'm going to do this edit. I'm going to drop it in place, and you can see that it removes that part of the boardwalk clip that I actually wanted to keep. So that was incorrect. So I'm going to edit, undo, and instead I'm going to take this and do an insert. So I'm going to drop it down, and you'll see that the sideways arrow is displayed here. So I'm going to let go, and instead it's going to push the boardwalk clip over instead of overwriting the first little chunk here. Now what I want to do is, if I've decided that I want to get rid of this, I've made a mistake here, what I can do is click on it and hit the delete key on the keyboard, and that'll get rid of it. But there's a really handy shortcut here, which is called a ripple delete. So the way that I typically do this is, if you hold shift when you hit delete, it's going to get rid of it, but it's going to pull everything backwards to the beginning of your movie. So I'm going to reinsert this. The ripple delete is so handy as your project increases in size and you want to take something out right in the middle of it. It's a really good thing to do. Okay, so I'm going to leave things like this. So I've got a little bit of this at the beginning, and then I've got this following that. So the next thing that we're going to take a look at are a couple handy editing tools that are displayed here. There is the roll tool, and then there's the ripple tool. Are both very handy as well. I've got a slip tool and a slide tool. So the first one that we're going to take a look at is the roll tool. So I'm going to select the standard roll tool, and it gives you a good indication on when you can actually use this. You can see that there's a little X next to it, but as I move to the middle between these two clips, the X disappears and then it reappears as I get further away. So in order to use this, I'll show you what happens. I'm going to click and drag, and this is going to be imagining that I want my Labor Day clip to last longer. So I'm going to click and drag and then let go. And what it does is it takes the Labor Day footage and extends it, and then it takes the boardwalk footage and gets rid of the beginning, but the content at the end is still preserved. So we'll just click off. Now we'll take a look at the ripple tool. Just click on it, and then I can move over to my clip, and you'll see that there are two different options, whether I'm hovering over the Labor Day or the edge of the boardwalk. So what I'll do first is I'm going to extend my Labor Day clip, so that little tag is pointing towards Labor Day. So I'm going to pull this out, and it's just going to push boardwalk over instead of going over top of it. Similarly, this is kind of nice with the boardwalk. If I want, I can shrink it, but it's going to preserve the fact that those two clips are next to each other. So that's really handy. Next thing, we're going to take a look at the slip tool. And what this does is, look at this. Now, imagining that I want this, I realize I've made a mistake and I only want to show part of this crowd, and I want to get rid of this section, but I want to make sure that this boardwalk clip lasts the same length. This is really handy. I'll just put this down here, especially if there's something on the other side that I want to preserve. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slip the boardwalk by clicking and holding. You can see a big border shows up, which shows the entire length of the video. And in the canvas on the top right, there's a little bit of a preview for where this one starts and stops. So I'm going to slip it to the right so that I'm showing an earlier part of this clip. So once I've got the overhead shot showing at the beginning and at the end, I can make sure that that's all I'm showing in that clip. So I'm going to go over that and be fine. Similarly, if I realize I've picked the wrong part of that clip, I can go the opposite direction, drag until I get the beginning and end of the second part of that clip showing in the canvas preview. So now that's what I've got in this section. Okay. Next thing, we'll take a look at the slide tool. Now the slide tool works a little bit differently. This will allow me to move the clip around in this section. So I'm going to make it go a little bit earlier, and you can see that the other clips fill the gap. So if I want to push this a little bit later, I want more Labor Day and then less theater, it moves the boardwalk over. Boardwalk is the same length, theater shortens, and the Labor Day extends. So those are some really handy editing tools you can use on the timeline.